don't get me wrong, almost all wars are economic. I mean, do you think crusades were about religion at all? No. Suddenly, all the Saracens, as they called them then, which are basically the Jews and the Muslims, they had the control of Silk Road and Spice Road. You know, if you control a bridge, you put your people in there, you charge people a toll, right? That's pretty much what those people did, which means things got more expensive for them. So they had to go actually conquer Jerusalem so that they'll have access to those roads. Because if you have Jerusalem, you're almost there at the Red Sea. You can go to India and China quite easily. You didn't have to go through Africa. And it was known that you could do that those days. But, with the ships of those days, it was a big adventure. It had to wait until 1498, I think, when Vasco da Gama first turned the Hope of Good Fortune, which is the tip of South Africa. So, as usual, it was the French. I don't like the French much. I mean, I tell this to my friends, French friends as well. Uh, Let me put it this way: I don't like the French that lives in Paris. Countryside France, one of the nicest people you could meet. You go to Paris, the original French, not the immigrants or people who came from former colonies. The original French, big time knows. You ask them something in English, or with a bad accent, even in French, they don't answer you. It's like I don't have to understand you. I'm not talking about people on the street. I'm talking about officials in metro. First time I went there, I took the bullet train from London to Paris. You take it from Waterloo Station, and it goes to the North Station in Paris or Gare du Nord. I asked this guy, says, which train I should take to go to Gare du Nord. He pretends he didn't understand me. Then somebody was behind me. Turns out one of my Tunisian brothers who lived under Ottoman rule for a while. This is, take the C train, B train, whatever it was. I don't remember. It was almost 30 years ago now. That's it. But in countryside, no problem. I mean, I did some trips to Calais. I was going to actually smuggle my dog in to England. England has a system. If you bring a dog or a cat, they have to stay under quarantine for at least 3 months, most of 6 months, because England is an island and has no rabies. The same thing is true for New Zealand, for example. And there is a reason for that quarantine, but horrible conditions. So we were planning to smuggle my dog because my wife didn't even move to London with me because of the dog. By the time we made all plans, the Russian crisis happened. They fired all of us. But I did a lot of trips to Calais to kind of taste the joint to see if it's easier to do on the hovercraft because on your way back, they're not very strict about checks. Of course, all this was before 9/11. 9/11 changed a lot of stuff. Dover and Calais are at the narrowest part of the English Channel, or as French call it, the Manche, or Le Manche, I'm sorry, not the Manche. Uh, Hovercraft takes about 45 minutes to cross it. People take that trip, don't even leave the craft and go back. Do you know why? While you're on hovercraft, it's duty-free zone. So you buy all your smokes and alcohol, and knowing the English people, they want their alcohol. But I got off, toured the city, had some nice little dinners and lunches. Because trust me, there is no cuisine on the English side. Un- unless you're in London or another big city like Liverpool or Manchester, where you have access to international cuisine. In a place like Dover, all you have is the English stuff. Fish and chips. It's basically fried fish and French fries, and they drowned it in malt vinegar. The chips, not the fish. I mean, I like malt vinegar. Don't get me wrong, but on French fries, or as they call it, chips. Come on, that's their idea of a specialty. And there was only one thing I ever liked. It was a Yorkshire pudding, and it's not even a pudding. It actually has meat in it. They also have what? Something pie. You guys ever seen that episode in Friends? Shepherd's pie? It's a pie, but there's no sweets in it. You actually have all sorts of, ground meat and other spices in it. That's their idea of a pie. And you go from there. But if you're in London, oh, you have restaurants from 80 different nations. You just find them. You know, Indian obviously is very popular, Pakistani. And if you ever go to London and to an Indian restaurant, make sure that ask for Indian hot. Because otherwise they bring you British hot. Let me put it this way. At Buffalo Wings, probably garlic parmesan sauce is hotter than the British hot Indian food. American hot is similar to mild buffalo sauce. Indian hot, I would compare it to mango habanero sauce. That is on fire. All right. So that system went down in 1972. Ever since its flexible exchange rate regime, which means at least among the major countries, market determines what the exchange rate is going to be. Every once in a while, the central banks of major countries may intervene if U.S. Federal Reserve believes that U.S. has gained too much value. U.S. dollar has gained too much value. That means U.S. exporters are less competitive, or foreign exporters are more competitive. They kind of intervene, which means they sell US dollars and buy foreign currencies. That kind of stuff worked in 70s and 80s when these markets were not that deep. But now these markets are so deep. Yes, an intervention creates an effect, but it doesn't last long. I mean, it has to be a sustained intervention, and there is only so much money that Fed can waste. I mean, let me give you an example. When I worked in London, I mean, I was in a derivatives desk, but we did a lot of foreign currency transactions. Traders being, arrogant species, they never say, "Oh, yesterday I bought $500 million." They say, "Oh, I bought $500." That meant $500 million. Now, when a trader, foreign exchange trader says, especially a swap trader, says $500, that means 500 billion. Even the units changed. When you ask for a quote in the old days, using dedicated Reuters screens or over Bloomberg, if you didn't specify an amount, that meant you're asking for 1 million US dollars. Now it's 10 million. Or it was 10 million a few years ago. I don't know what it is now. Maybe it went up to 100 million. You have to specify. It's weird stuff. We have only 10 minutes, so I'm going to stop here. On Wednesday, we're going to go through some of the details of those monetary systems, why they work, why they didn't work, what were some issues. and we'll finish up chapter 2 maybe Wednesday, if not next Monday. And you guys check that link works for the ebook, right? Because they were supposed to have the physical copy to rent. I don't know. Something happened. They said we're gonna give you the option of ebook, so I posted it. Come to class on Wednesday, having that chapter 2. All right.